Hello, this is Sneaky Turtle with another KSP video. Today I'm going to be building the space shuttle with this pretty simple easy tutorial. Just a little cargo bay there, and then a fuel tank on the back filled with liquid fuel and oxidizer. And the liquid fuel and oxidizer, I don't really like the monopropellant engines. I think they're too slow, so I use the Terrier engines. So I use the liquid fuel and oxidizer. And then I put the Delta, or I don't remember the name. They're some type of delta wings. The big delta wings. But then I put two winglets at the front. You don't have to do that, but it really helps it fly, so. And it keeps it stable through re-entry, so I like doing that. Landing gear on the bottom. Make sure you put a drain valve on it. That way you can drain the excess fuel before you re-enter the atmosphere. Just putting landing gear in the right place. Putting the elevons on it. Retracting the landing gear. And putting the shuttle on it. Orange tank. Nose cone. And then here's when I put the monopropellant engines on. It's just the Terrier engines. You can reskin the Terrier engines, not mod it or anything. Just you can click the skin button to make that so they change the whole Terrier engine basically, and it just makes it smaller. It has the same power though. So then a nose cone on the bottom, two decouplers, and then the SRBs, big giant space shuttle SRBs. Move them down a little bit, and then put the nose cones on them, and then set everything together. And I just did a little crossfade there because I put something in the fairing and I flipped it around. Not in the fairing, the cargo bay. So, and now we'll move it to 1x speed and crossfade it to launch. Here we go. I'm just moving some staging here because I messed up some of the staging. But 3, 2, 1, lift off. This is 1x speed. The space shuttle in this game is just really fast. Bring it back up to 2.5x speed here in a second. Okay, back to 2.5x speed. I like to pitch it back a lot right away because it's really hard to control in the upper atmosphere because those SRBs are running out of fuel and it just makes it really hard to control. And if you're making this, I would recommend putting Separatron motors on the SRBs. I kind of forgot to, so I just kind of had to let them float away. But just kind of shooting our way up into orbit. Yep, SRBs jettisoned, there they go. And then I just got my apogee up to 100 kilometers. Time warping up to apogee to get ready to burn. Then I pitched up a little so the apogee was in front of me, that way I was going to get a nice circular orbit. It's hard to get a circular orbit with the space shuttle because it does that. It just, the vectors have so much gimbal that it just kind of flips it around. You kind of need the gimbal to keep it somewhat stable though. Now I'm in orbit. And main tank jettisoned. I floated around, or I time warped around just to make sure that big orange tank just kind of floated away. Then I open up the cargo bay. And what is it going to be? Stage it away. It's back to 1x speed. I EVA Jebediah so that he can get in it. This is a moon lander. We're going to land on the moon. Once in orbit, this lander has 4,000 meters a second of delta V, so it can probably make it to Duna. So, activate the engine, extend all the solar panels, and get ready to do our burn. and then just moving out to the moon now, creating a maneuver node, and I got a nice encounter there, pretty cheap moon encounter. So I flipped around, activate the engine at full power, and shoot on the way over there. And I didn't use normal landing gear on this lander because they don't really fit inside the space shuttle cargo bay, so I just used octagonal struts to land it. And then on this orbit I realized that it was going to take 2 moon passes, so I just went around. And then I set my focus to the moon, and then I changed my orbit so that it was going to be a nice encounter. It's cheaper if you just do it all in one burn at the beginning, but I like to do a correction burn just to make sure it's accurate. And doing our correction burn now. Now we have corrected our orbit, and then we can time warp on over to the Mun. Here we go. Shooting on over to the Mun, and then we just circularize our orbit by burning retrograde. And then circularized orbit, and I realized this would be a really good place to deorbit, so we land on the light side of the moon, so I deorbited here. And then, because I didn't want to land in a crater, I just flipped sideways and activated my engine so that I didn't have to land in a crater. But yeah, just coming in for a landing now. You can see that red circle down there, that's my trajectory. I have Kerbal Engineer Redux installed. It's not required, it just shows you where you're going to land, basically. So, throttling up the engine. This is 1x speed again, so we're not going very fast at all. And I activate the engine, bringing it down onto the ground. I shut off the engine throttle and just kind of let it coast down. And then as we get closer and closer to the ground, probably should try to do like a suicide burn. It's more efficient. But I just did one big puff of the engine. And touchdown. But then I realized it was going to flip over because I didn't have real landing gear, so I used the RCS to try to keep it stable. But eventually I realized that probably wasn't going to work, so I had to fly to a new launch site, or landing site. So I just shot up into the sky, and I landed on a more flat area. I turned on the red circle again so I could see where I was going to land. I was going to land over there, which was a pretty nice flat area. So I was coming in to land. I activated the engine. Way too high again. I have a habit of doing that. Full power on the engine just to slow us down a little bit, and then little throttle, just a little bit of throttle, coming down, and touchdown. And this one it actually stayed, so I got the EVA Jeb, turned on his RCS jetpack, and he got to plant the flag on the Mun. He kind of stood on the solar panel there, so I was afraid he was going to break it. He kind of fell over too. And NASA flag, hooray! I can't actually read what I put in there on the editing software, so you'll be able to read it in the video, but I can't read it. I recorded this video like 2 days ago. Now just heading back to the lander and getting ready for liftoff. boarded the lander, engine at full power, back to 2.5 times speed, and then since no one really cares about ascents, we've all seen moon ascents, I just crossfaded. So here we are, getting ready to come back to Kerbin. As we head back to Kerbin, getting ready for a maneuver of we're just maneuvering so that we can get close to Kerbin, time warp up to it, and here we are at Kerbin. Phase retrograde. I tried to retract all the solar panels as quickly as I could because I thought they were going to burn up, but they didn't. So now just heading in, getting ready to launch, or getting ready to land. Not really land, just circularize the orbit. And as we circularize the orbit, I set the space shuttle as target because I thought I'd be able to make an encounter, but then I realized after a while that I wasn't going to have the fuel to do it, so I just left the lander in orbit, and in a future video I can refuel it and bring it to Mars or something. Duna in this game. So, still trying to make an encounter. I don't know why, but I just thought I would be able to, because I thought I'd be able to make the space shuttle do it. But you'll be able to see in a little bit that the space shuttle had some engine problems. So, when you guys build the space shuttle, after following this tutorial, if you do build a space shuttle, but if you do, make sure your Terrier engines are angled up just a little bit more, because when I tried to fly my space shuttle, it flipped around, and I'm not sure if that was because it was angled up too much or too little. I think it was angled up too little. It wasn't angled up enough. So then here you can see the problem with the Terrier engines. I set that one as target, and I flipped around retrograde of target, or to target. I activated the engines, and it flipped around. Yeah, so it wasn't angled up enough with the way it went. So then I just decided it would be good to land back at the KSC. So I went out of the map screen, and I showed launch sites, or launch and landing sites. As I came back to the KSC, retrograde, orbit, and I had to keep the Terriers at really low power, because otherwise the whole thing flipped around. The reaction wheels were able to counteract it if it was at low power. So now just getting ready for a atmospheric reentry and landing. Space shuttle's kind of flipping around because of the Terrier engines. But there we go. We got our trajectory good. That's why it really helps to have the Kerbal Engineer Redux mod, but since it's the space shuttle, it can kind of glide really well. So then I begin draining the fuel out of the space shuttle so that it can re-enter just fine. I flip it back over to its correct position and re-enter the atmosphere. I recorded this video 3 different times because I had re-entry heating problems. The other 2 times, it blew up on re-entry, like the nose cone blew up, and sometimes, one time the wing blew off of it. This time, for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it was glitched, I don't know, but it didn't have any atmospheric re-entry problems at all. So if you're ever getting, like, heat indicators, just pitch up, and that will slow you down a little, and it will stop it from burning up. I clicked the gear button, and I realized that the gear weren't extending, and I figured out that I guess maybe when I staged away the orange tank, it blew up the landing gear somehow. I don't actually know what happened to them because I put them on in the spaceplane hangar. So I don't know what happened to them, but they're not there. So I had to land in the ocean, which the ocean landings aren't as good. Pretty dangerous. So just gliding towards the ocean, pitching down so that at last second I could pull up. Because the space shuttle doesn't have any engine, just a glide. And then I pitch up here, get a little bit of G's, That would have been enough to knock out a human, but they're Kerbals, so they're fine. We're coming in for a landing, and touchdown! The only thing that blew up was the nose cone. I would like to thank you for watching the video. I'll see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye.